Time now for your facts or facts. And nearly half of all insect species are threatened with extinction. According to a study out of Australia, 40% of all insects are in decline globally, and a third of them are endangered. Scientists say that the biodiversity of insects is threatened worldwide, mostly because of, guess what? Habitat loss from all different reasons, right?
I know.
And climate is one of those reasons.
Selfishly, I'm like, I hope it's the mosquitoes because it's driving me crazy. But we know that's probably not good. Speaking of insects, have you guys ever seen one like the video we were showing you really up close? So in celebration of Nature Photography Day, we're actually exploring the world of macro photography. Okay, we're zooming really close in. This practice yields unique pictures featuring extreme close-ups, very small objects, living organisms such as insects. So let's bring in macro photographer Levon Biss and highlight some of his wonderful work. How are you doing, Levon?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
We're doing great. We've been eyeing and oohing and eyeing over your pictures.
I can barely take a picture of Jordan, let alone of some tiny insect. So, how did you get into this? What drew you to this type of photography, not only the macro, but also the insects?
Well, it actually started off with my son, he was about 8 years old at the time, and we bought him a science kit for Christmas, and it had a little microscope in it. And he brought in a ground beetle from our backyard, which is a common species. And we took a look at it under the microscope, and when I saw it, I was blown away. I thought it was absolutely stunningly beautiful. And so I decided to try and photograph it for him as a present. And it took me about a year to create that first photograph and understand how to work with extreme macro photography. And and I've been doing it since. I've been doing it about 12 years now. And every time I shoot another specimen, insect, you see something new, and it keeps you curious and engaged.
I got to say, when we look at images of, anything from Mother Earth, you look at the beauty, right? The creation, like, man, look how cool and awesome this is. But when it's a bug, we never really can get that close-up look. But it seems like just from the images that you have taken, you could see all the intricacies of every little animal that I'm sure keeps you coming back day after day.
Well, that's it. You're learning something new with each insect. When you study them up close in this kind of magnification, they are beautiful. They're engineering marvels, and you do find that you develop this kind of respect for them. They're awesome. And it's one of those things where unless you're aware of something and you know more about it, you can't really appreciate it. Right. And, in the decade that I've been photographing insects, I can't stop thinking about them. I love them.
Yeah, so let's talk more about that, because this started as something with your son, but now 10 years later, you're all in on the insects, and you want to conserve them. What have you learned about climate and insects and how they're impacted?
Well, it's one of those things. I've got a certain skill set where I can communicate through photography, and therefore you might as well use that for some good. Now, the issues around insect decline and biodiversity loss are current, and they're urgent. And it's because insects are hard to see, the debate and the conversation about these subjects doesn't really get the attention it deserves. And so obviously the photographs that I create show the audience the insects in pure clarity. You can study these specimens like never before. And so therefore we can understand more about these insects. Now, the hope is that these images are going to be used as educational tools rather than just pure pretty pictures. I hope that people enjoy them and they're entertaining, but I want them to walk away educated more about these subjects.
Is that a piece of pollen that?
I was wondering if we showed an image of this bug and it had something in between his legs. It almost looked like it was picked up a water droplet. Do you have a favorite bug by chance? Just curious that you like photographing more than another?
I love beetles. I'm particularly fond of beetles. I think they're the coolest things. Bees are very hard to photograph because of their hair. And so when I'm given a bee to photograph, I have to roll up my sleeves and bed in with it. But it's, I like all insects, particularly winged insects as well, because of all the textures and the colors that each insect gives you. You can photographically play with it in different ways. You can sculpt light around it to, highlight certain features of the insect. It gives you a lot of room to play with as a photographer.
You're a photographer, but you're also a stylist, I must say, and apparently a hairstylist when it comes to these bees. But we're showing, apparently you do seeds as well, not just insects. Is that the image we're seeing that's kind of a round ball that looks a little hairy? Is that a seed or is that an insect?
I can't see it, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But I shoot seeds, anything small, essentially. What I try and do is make the invisible visible. I work with museums and institutions to try and bring their collections over to the public and be that bridge between the museum and the public, essentially. Lots of these collections are hidden in drawers away from public view, and it's an opportunity for the museums to celebrate their collections and form a bond with the public and enable them to educate them on natural history.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
And don't you have a museum, an exhibition coming up where people can see this?
Well, we do. Next week on the 22nd of June, the new project Extinct and Endangered will open at the American Museum of Natural History in New York.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. That is so
Biss,
cool.
if we could only do that at home with our kids and our family and everything else, they're so beautiful.
How many people can you say you've met that are like, I'm a bug photographer?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.